Welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show, where we help top leaders find their pathway to incredible success and a lifetime of happiness. Here is your host, Tom Dutta, the Quiet Warrior.
Quiet Warrior. Hey, everybody. Welcome. My name is Tom Dutta, like Butta, the Quiet Warrior Show. Did you expect me to be in all dressed up today? I got my Come and See hat on. You're going to be thrilled to know that we have the CEO of the Come and See Foundation, which is actually a big part of the Chosen. Anyway, I won't get into that. I'm so excited, vibrating in my chair, tipping my hat to everybody who's chiming in here today. Listen, we're on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. It's called live streaming, and you can hop on. If you're on the feed, you can post a comment in the chat box. What we'll do is we'll bring it on the screen, let our guests see it. If it's worthy, we'll keep it in the production. How's that? So go to work, everybody. Before we bring on our special guest, I'd like to just make a few announcements. Got a couple pieces of business to take care of. You know, in a very difficult world, we have children in our lives. Wouldn't it be really cool to make the world a better place, bring parents and children together to have stories, to do something creative? If you like that idea, watch this. Did you have your air guitars out there? I don't know. My hands were free, everyone, and it dropped on Amazon and wherever you buy books. We're getting it out there. My third book just published. You saw the trailer. It's called The Talanoa Way with Pet Pals Coloring Stories. 40 images, 40 opportunities to bring children and parents together to color. Now, the one thing I want to point out is the word Talanoa is a Fijian word. The Pacific Islanders use Talanoa to talk, to tell stories, to pass down things generation to generation to make the world a better place. Let me tell you a little bit about Mr. Stan Jantz. He's the CEO, Chief Executive Officer. He leads Come and See. Come and See is a not-for-profit foundation. It's on a mission to share the authentic Jesus with 1 billion people. And after serving as president as one of the nation's largest Christian bookstores, he began writing career. He's produced 75 books, everybody, and I actually have one here that I'm going to talk about today. 4 million copies sold over that. His latest title was released in 2021, The Healing Power of God, a biblical embrace of the supernatural. He's also served in leadership roles with several Christian publishers and as president of the Evangelical Christian Publishers Association, an international nonprofit trade organization of member companies involved in publishing and distribution worldwide. And for 24 years, Stan has served on the board of trustees of Biola University, including a term as board chair. He and his wife, Karen, and he told me a little bit of the background on why her name is spelled with an I. They reside in Huntington Beach, California, with their 2 children. Welcome to the show, Stan Jantz.
Hey, great to be with you, Tom. And as you said, I've got Canadian roots too, so I feel a kinship with you.
Absolutely, and you have a little bit of the accent there. Maybe it's just me imagining, or maybe God's at work here. Hey, I got to show you one other thing. I'm just going to plug this. I know Dallas, if he can watch this.
Man,
look at that.
That's awesome. You are decked out. We got the two brands, Come and See, which is the foundation that supports The Chosen, which is the show. And you've got it in teal as well. So that's important. Teal is the official color of The Chosen.
Absolutely. And, you know, I got to tell you, to get used to different, for those who are audio, you can't see this. But, Stan, I wear this when I go shopping. Like, I do the shopping. I'm a home cook and a foodie. You want to know how many people turn their heads and look at The Chosen? Every once in a while, you walk down the street here in British Columbia where I live, and they'll say, "Where'd you get that?" Isn't that cool?
That is
It's pretty amazing.
it's a great door opener for all kind of conversations, for sure.
Absolutely. Throughout the production, we're going to give a shout out to come and see. This is a QR code that actually came on a little card from you when you sent your business card. Where does this take us, and what is that for?
That goes right to our website, comeandsee.net. And this is where you can access all things The Chosen, but also you can download the app. And the app is really the key. The website's going to give you basic information about how you can donate, who's involved with Come and See. But the app is where you can watch the show. And one of the values we have, Tom, is, as you said, to reach 1 billion people with the authentic Jesus, but to always keep the show free. Now, you can stream it on Amazon, and season 1 is on Netflix, and that is a subscription, but it'll always be free on the app. And that's important in terms of the global reach of this show. And so the app is in the App Store, either Android or iOS, and you can download that QR code to take you right to it, and then get not just watch the show, but all the background features, too, that go with it, the behind the scenes, if you will, and be a part of a community, a growing community of 250 million people who have watched the show. And so we've got a ways to go, but it's really taking hold all over the world. And of course, especially here in North America, but there are other places as well that maybe even are growing faster. So we're just excited about what The Chosen is doing globally, because it's about the greatest life ever lived.
I got to tell you, everybody just listen, teaching moment on the show here. When you watch his back, watch Stan's body language, watch the inflection in his voice and the power, the energy that comes out of him when he talks about that, The Chosen. Pretty cool stuff there. Yeah. Hey, I told you we're going to do some fun things with you today. We're going to start off by taking you into Plato's Garden. Are you ready to go into Plato's Garden?
I even looked it up. You gave me a heads up on this, Tom. I looked it up, and I love it. I mean, I don't know a little bit about Plato, but this was a place for these great conversations that was out of the kind of the hustle and bustle of the streets. So tell us about it, the Garden of Plato.
Oh, that's well, gosh, I'm stealing my heart already. Nobody has ever researched Plato's Garden, so now I love you even more. I want to put a comment on the screen, though, from a viewer who's watching us live. From John Smith, welcome to the show, Mr. Jantz.
Thank you, John.
He's calling you Mr., so there must be a reason for that.
Well, but the gray hair does it, I'm sure.
I have to tell you a little bit about John, though. He comes through and watches the show periodically. John Smith is an educator in Ohio. He works for a university, and I learned a little bit from his profile and connecting with him. He is a pastor as well, faith-based man. Welcome to Plato's Garden. Hey, if you don't know what Plato's Garden is, let's tease you with a little video clip. All right, you're probably wondering, what is that all about? Well, I had to make a sizzle video, and I started a doctoral degree, Stan, in Middlesex University, and I'm the only guy, I think, who got accepted into the university who has some double vision, who has leftovers from a concussion, and I thought if you can get a guy like me into a university, it's a pretty cool thing. Wow. One of the things they taught us in that is, as you mentioned the words, Plato's Garden. Plato's Garden, I have some things on the screen here, so bear with me. Plato was an Athenian philosopher during the classical period in ancient Greece, founder of Platonic's school of thought and academy, from the word academia, the first institution of higher learning in the Western world. And if we take a look what's on the screen now, Stan, there's 3 words, and this will take us through the whole show. They call it criticality or critical thinking, and I know that you're a man of faith and education. The influences of context. So in other words, we have the macro, the global world, what's going on around Stan. And then we have the meso, which is what's happening in the sector where you created your public agency. And that, we'll say, is your books and the work you're doing with The Chosen. You with me?
Yep, I am.
And then we have the micro. Micro is my favorite because we dig deeper into the person. What was going on with you as you shaped your agency? what critical thinking is, everyone, is we connect the dots in all three areas. We don't just talk about how great The Chosen is or talk about Stan, to find hidden meaning and deeper impacts. So that's what we're going to be doing here. So I'm going to just throw out a question for you, and we can riff on it.
Yeah.
You've been had a prolific career in Christian publishing and content creation. So, hey, Stan, tell us some stories. Can you share a pivotal moment in your early career that set you on this path? Go back to your childhood, too. Just tell us how you were shaped.
Well, it's funny. When I was in the third grade, and I've heard this from people, that some things that happen in the third and fourth grade can sometimes influence the rest of your life. And I was in a small school, and the teacher asked us to write a story. That was it. We're kids. I wrote a story about a hyena. And then you had to read your story. And I said the hyena was laughing, because back then I thought, well, that was it. Hyenas laugh. What's their bark? That they do. So I read the story, and the kids laughed. And I remember feeling like, wow, I like that. I like that they responded and like what I wrote. And so I kind of always dabbled around a little bit as a kid. But, by the time I got into high school and college, I was, taking literature courses and started writing kind of amateur ways. And it really became a part of my life, but it was that early experience that kind of encouraged me. So I would just say, for parents, the things you say to your kids when they're in those formative years have such a profound effect. In this case, it was my fellow students, were influenced by peer groups for sure. But then my mother and father both were very encouraging to me. And I had the privilege, as you said in the introduction, I grew up with a family that owned a chain of Christian retail bookstores. So I was always around books. Yeah. I love reading. I love being around books. And these were, of course, Christian books, because it was a Christian bookstore.
Was this, Stan, was this in Orange, where you live?
This is in Central California, yeah. Okay. Fresno, where a lot of Canadians actually live, because it's a big agricultural region. And so, Canadians are good farmers. And so they come down there and, farm the fruit trees and the grapes and all of that. And so I grew up in that environment and got my education, and then started, working in our stores, and then started writing books. So really, my life has really been around content, around books, around media. And now with this privilege I have of working with The Chosen, which to me brings the ultimate combination of the written word of God. It's not the Bible. The Chosen is not the Bible, but is based on a biblical character and story. And to bring that together with the visual, representation of who Jesus was. And I think, Tom, you'd agree. I mean, even in the days of Plato and all the way through history, visual impressions of the life of the world. And as we got into, where painting and sculpting and that kind of thing, I mean, it's what we think about. Think of Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel, where he depicts God and creation. It's just inspired for centuries. And I think there's something about the visual God has built into us, an appreciation. And when you can blend that visual part of the story with the content, because the content's got to be there, it's got to be true. This is not a fairy tale. This is a real story rooted in scripture, rooted in history. And to visually see what it's like, what those characters are like, I think, Tom, that's why The Chosen is just resonating with people in such a big way.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I'm just writing out my paper here. Everyone, as Stan was talking here, a few things come into my head. You'll see on the screen, I have this little piece of paper, and it's already filled up half.
Love it.
Canadian farmers, by the way, my father, who passed away in 2018, Stan, he had a heart attack privately in his own home. It was pretty sad. I hadn't seen my dad much, because most who follow me know my story. My dad left home when I was a kid at age 12, and he was a man of addiction. But what I learned later in his life is he would go, as I got to know him, he'd go into prisons, and he would do men's meditation groups, and he would practice his faith. My dad actually was a Mormon when my mother met him in Fiji, and he was a Hindu by birth. And then I came to Canada, and I was baptized Catholic, and now practice my Christian faith. So I always like to say I was all messed up, but there's only one Jesus Christ. So back to what you said about visual, and then I'll give it back to you, that you're absolutely right. Everybody, if you haven't seen The Chosen, you got to go check out the app. We'll put it back on the screen in a bit. But what you said, Stan, when we started seeing the visuals and how the story was told, it was game changer. And I'm a visual learner, so just amazing work that's happening there. Let's get back into the story a little bit more about what shaped you. So you wrote the hyena story, and then you found yourself. Are your parents still with you today?
No, they've been gone for a few years, and but I still value what they taught me, how they shaped me, and really being privileged to grow up. I've got a lot of books on my shelf. Those you can see the visual part of this podcast. I love books, and of course it comes from let's put it all out there. Who
Yeah.
is the selling author of all time? It's God. God wrote the Bible. Now he used human agents to do
Yeah.
that. But it was his, inspiration that created this wonderful book that has sold billions and billions of copies over the years. And of course, it's one of those things that's been then translated. And I'll tell you this, Tom, one of the things that Come and See is aspiring to do is translate every episode of The Chosen into 600 languages.
Wow.
And you represent, I love your story. I mean, you have Fiji and you have Hindu influence and you're Canadian and you've got all these different cultural touch points in your life. We are a global world. When I was growing up, it was kind of isolated. You had the US, and then you hear about other countries and things that were going on. We are so connected now. And that's the way God made us. We are a multicultural, multi-ethnic people on this earth, but we all have this in common, right? We have a need to be recognized, to live a meaningful life, and to do something productive and meaningful in our lives. And I believe as a Christian that the doorway to do that is through Jesus. He taught and lived and died for us so that we could have a life full of meaning and purpose, and to be able to have an eternal perspective, not just what we do here on earth, but also what we're going to see when we join him in eternity. But the life he lived on earth is such an example for us of how we can then relate to each other and how we are to love God. So it's just, and again, The Chosen brings us out in a way that I had never seen. The Bible is the core. The Bible is inspired. The Bible is God's inspired word. The Chosen is a TV show. But one thing that we're finding, Tom, is people who watch The Chosen are drawn to read the Bible.
Yeah.
And the translation of the Bible is part of the history. It's now in thousands of languages that people can understand. So we're not going to hit as many as the Bible is being translated into, but 600, we believe, will reach about 95% of the world who will be able to understand that language.
Wow.
It's going to be the language they were born with, or a language that they understand as a second language. And so that's a huge order when it comes to media, especially with as many seasons as The Chosen will eventually have.
Absolutely incredible. Talk about the Bible. I just reached over. There's mine there,
Yeah.
and I fell on my head in a bathtub in 2018, and they had a brain injury, serious, slipped into depression, all these things that come with it. My life stopped. I didn't know if I would actually even be here, and I denied my faith when I was younger because of what was happening in my home. I didn't understand it, but through The Chosen and other things, I actually picked this up. And John will know this because he's watching us. But I just want to share this with you, Stan, that I couldn't leave the house. I couldn't walk straight. I couldn't talk properly. I had all these deficiencies from that injury. And I was at my darkest moment. I couldn't work. I was a CEO type person, had my agency business. I ended up night stalking at Costco for a couple of years. And I would come home at midnight and sit in my chair in the living room where I'm pointing here. And I would just say, God help me. And so I reached out to a pastor and I said to him, teach me how to read the Bible. And then the next thing I did is I said to my wife, can you please go buy me a cross? And I wear my cross around my neck, and I would wear it to Costco for my evening shift. And I would say in the car, I didn't know how to pray. I would just say, God, if you can hear me, I've been told just to talk to you. Please help me. This is going to be hard. I've never lifted 50-pound boxes, and I had double vision and all this. I couldn't even deal with the environment, but I never told anyone. And it changed my life. So amen to you, and for all the work that you're doing. I just saw a little note here from John saying awesome to you and what we're talking about here. All right, let's go back into Plato's Garden. So here we are. We know how you were shaped. Yep. This is a part of the story that is so cool. The question I wrote down here, Stan, is as a CEO of Come and See Foundation, you've got this mission to bring The Chosen to a global audience. What have been the most significant challenges and successes in the journey? Before you dig into that, can we put a video up and just watch that for a bit?
Sure.
So everyone, Stan sent me this, his team, this amazing video. So we're just going to put it on here. Now, purposely had taken the sound off, so feel free to talk over it. What
Yeah.
do we
The
say?
Chosen series is making an undeniable impact around the world, and it was received with a great joy during its one-of-a-kind premiere in Madagascar.
Okay, let's just pause it there. What are we seeing here?
So Madagascar is an island nation off the coast of Africa, one of the poorest nations in the world. They have a language called Malagasy, which is they've never had a major media show translated. But the president of Madagascar is a believer, and he requested of Come and See, could you provide a translation of The Chosen in Malagasy so we could show it in our country? And they don't have a lot of TV shows, not like they have TVs in their houses. As you can see, here's their houses look like. So they aired it in public places. They showed it in an orphanage. They showed it in prisons. They went to a public place like this and showed The Chosen. These are the orphans actually who are responding after they've seen The Chosen. There's the president in the middle there. There he is right here. And he is, they had a little red carpet moment. And that's our team on the front there, Kyle and Brad, who worked with The Chosen. And it was a remarkable experience. They put billboards up. And I'll tell you what, to this day, this is in June of last year, so it's been a year, they are still showing The Chosen in Madagascar. And often what they'll do is put it on a truck with a big LED screen and take it to remote villages. They were so honored that we made it possible to dub. And as you know, there's translation and then you have dubbing and subtitles, but we dubbed it into the language using amateur talent. I mean, there's no professional voice artist for Malagasy. We worked with a French ministry called Jesus.net that helped us with this. And I tell you what, it's reverberated throughout the world to see what can happen when some people step in, and we depend on our donors. And we've had over 150,000 people donate to Come and See. And there are three purposes where dollars go. First is, Tom, we fund all the production for The Chosen. We came in on season 4. And we're very close to announcing the completion of the funding of season 5, which just wrapped last week.
I saw an email came out because I'm on the feed and I hear Dallas. Tell us about that. You were pretty excited about it.
They just wrapped the filming now. They have post-production, which will happen in Los Angeles, but the photography and the production itself, which is in this season 5 was in Utah. They have a beautiful Jerusalem set there, and then in Texas where they have the Capernaum set. And then all the kind of Sea of Galilee kind of thing. And they just wrapped last week, season 5. And so they go into work for post-production now, and that will be out in 2025. They haven't announced yet when. They're still working on some of those details. But this season went very well. And I'll tell you what it is for your listeners and viewers. Season 5 starts with the triumphal entry. And so it takes place in Jerusalem. Yes. Where Jesus comes in on a donkey that's never been ridden before and goes into Jerusalem. And it concludes then at the end of that, what is called Holy Week. You know, Catholics, Protestants, Orthodox recognize that week from Palm Sunday to Easter Sunday as Holy Week. But season 5 goes up to the night that Jesus was betrayed. So the Garden of Gethsemane. And they just finished principal photography on that. I'm told it was just spectacular and emotional and all that combined. And also will include the Last Supper, which is, of course, a very major part of the story of Jesus and his followers. And then his prayer that he gave them in John 13 to 17. And so, it's going to be a very emotional season. Of course, the opposition grows. We know that. It's part of the story. And as people who are around the world, whether it's Madagascar or you mentioned Fiji and you mentioned India, right now, India, we're seeing some movement there in this strong Hindu nation of an openness to this story of The Chosen. And of course, translation is key to put this into languages that people can understand. And so we're just working on that. And it's been great to see how people are connecting, because guess what? We're in a world filled with anxiety, filled with strife and conflict. And if you look at Jesus, especially as season 5 is going to roll out, there was a lot of conflict, a lot of strife, a lot of anxiety. And we're going to see that portrayed, that Jesus bore that weight of that on himself. He knows what we are going through because he's been through it too. And so we can identify with him because he first identified with us. And again, the way the characters are portraying the story is just so so powerful. And again, the story of the Chosen is not the Bible. The Bible is the Bible, but it's based on that.
Yes.
And increasingly, the words of Jesus are coming right from Scripture. The character in the show, and then you see the reaction of the disciples, and it's just I'm not going to give you any spoilers for season 5, but it's coming. And if you haven't seen season 4, it's pretty remarkable as well. Different things that of his followers and what they encountered.
Yeah, I just want to flash something up on the screen here for a minute again, if I can just put it up, everyone, and I'll just mention this is a QR code we brought up before. We're here to help the Chosen Mission. So if you use your camera on screen, you can actually open up the website. What was interesting, Stan, is you were saying to me, we'll take that off now. You were saying to me about the characters and that it's not the Bible, it's based on the Bible. One of the things that I learned in watching The Chosen is going to the Chosen app and watching all of the backstory. So sometimes I'll talk about Dallas. I want to give it back to you if you can just introduce that name, who he is. But we'll see the writers or people around the table actually behind the scenes stuff, which I want to tip my hat to everything you guys are all doing. Because that really explained, because some people might say, well, I've read the Bible and it means this to me, and I've read the Bible and it means that to me. Yet they talk about how they interpreted it, which I think is wonderful. Thank you for that. Let me just pull back into the Plato's Garden, connecting the dots. Everybody, we're here with Stan Jantz. He's the CEO of Come and See Foundation, which is a fundraising arm, distribution arm for the hit blockbuster series The Chosen. And Stan, you're in this role, CEO of Come and See. We have a lot of leaders. My show is international, so we'll have average, ordinary people. A lot of people in leadership. Tell us the story or the journey to that role. There were some transitional things going on at The Chosen that we heard about as viewers, but anything you can to sort of fill in that part of the story. How do you go from publishing and your faith to that?
Well, thank you. And first of all, let's talk about Come and See for a minute and why that even exists, because The Chosen began as a crowd-funded project. Season 1 was done with crowdfunding, one of the largest efforts of that kind ever done. Season 2 and 3 were done with Pay It Forward and in conjunction with Angel Studios. And Dallas will say, and Dallas is the creator of The Chosen and the director and the co-writer. So he is very involved. But then there are hundreds of people that are involved in the production that go into it. That it's a huge, and anybody involved in media knows it takes a village, it takes a team, to put something like this out. But the agreement with Angel was ended actually here just a couple of months ago, and it was by design. It's the show had kind of outgrown the ability of Pay It Forward to fund it, because things go up. I mean, if you see the quality each season, the quality of the show has gotten better.
Absolutely.
Have become more into their characters, and all of that. Media is expensive, and so they believed in Dallas. Dallas has always had in his thinking from the very beginning that the show, he wanted to reach 1 billion people and keep it free. So those are our bedrock values, is what we talked about. By the way, I tried the QR code; it works just perfectly. I did it. Goes to the Chosen app.
Yes.
And you can download it then. So folks, if you put up one more time, people can get it later in the show. So what happened is that Come and See came alongside and say, tell you what, and this is Dallas really interacting with our board chair and to say we need this funding, and it's going to come through people being generous and giving, but they'll be able to get a tax deduction. In fact, we've worked it out. It's been different from Canada. It's a little bit different in terms of those, we have the IRS, you have your tax agency, but we're working with Canadian specialists in this area. But each country is going to be different. But in the U.S., of course, you get a tax deduction because we're what's called a 501c3 organization, a nonprofit.
Right.
So all these gifts then previously were just generous, and people were giving and they were generous. But now with this ability, we're able to go after foundations and larger donors. And so we're humbled by the number of people. And there's a value in The Chosen. And this kind of goes to one of your mezzo of the Plato's Garden. And that is your industry. What are you a part of? And we're a part of an ecosystem of people who are bringing their loaves and fishes. And you remember that story?
I love that, by the way. There's a great shirt you guys are getting out there.
They call 5+2. 5 loaves and 2 fishes. And this is where you bring it to Jesus. He'll be the one that multiplies it. And of course, there's that great scene in season 3 when they do have the feeding the 5,000, and it's remarkable and it's miraculous. But God still does that with whatever we give. We just give out of not out of our abundance, but really sometimes out of not to be. I always say don't be stupid about it. Don't be reckless, but be radical in your giving. Yeah. And so we find people who are so generous and making it possible, whether it's a $10 gift or a 7-figure gift, to see the Chosen produced. So now we're funding all the production through season 7, which is, right now we just finished season 5, and then 6 and 7 will come. And then the translation efforts. And translation is costly. It's expensive to get, especially if you do it at quality level. And Tom, I just want to stress too, you've got a quality show. I love being on here because you're a professional, but you're professional with heart. You've got a personal touch. But we as people of faith, we need to be leaders in quality. And one of the appeals of The Chosen is it is such a high quality show. People are drawn in and it speaks to them because of the quality. And then the translation speaks to their heart. You hear the term heart language. Yeah. And so we want every person to experience The Chosen in the language that they know, the same way we experience it in English or in Spanish or in Portuguese. And so that's that second part of the translation. We're paying for all of that. And that's, again, funding it is costly because you need voice actors, you need, especially for those primary languages. And then the third thing is distribution. And so we're working with various ministries, and you would know a lot of them, like Cru and Bible Project and One Hope and Prison Fellowship and Campus Crusade. We're working with them to take it to places that the commercial market would never go. Yeah. And so those 3 things are really the pillars of what Come and See is doing, and keep it free.
I love that last one. And by the way, everybody, where in the world can you find Keep It Free? That's the fact that you are all putting that out there is in any business, people will say that's a risk, because as I know, coming from corporate North America, where, you run a company and all of a sudden it's like the dollar store. Hey, it's a dollar store. Now you see $1 plus. But you guys are for real, keeping it free. And that's what I love. I'm just going to riff with you. I know you said a lot there. It's pretty amazing. And I don't know if you can say, Stan, just how much it costs to do one episode, or you were saying things like translation is expensive. Just ballpark, so the audience gets a sense and they can maybe help out too.
You can go on the app, I believe, or certainly the website, and we have a little ticker of what each season and what each episode of each season. So just to give you a comparison, season 1 was about $1 million an episode, maybe a little bit more. Wow. Season 4, which is now airing online, was $6 million an episode. So
sorry, did you say 6 million? Yeah, my goodness.
Now, to put it in perspective, a show like Yellowstone, these other streaming shows are out there, they could be 60 million an episode. So it's a big difference. We're still not there. And never will be at that level, but the costs have gone up. And again, to maintain that quality, and that doesn't count the translation. That's a separate production that we then, not only do we fund that, but we actually manage that. We have an expert. You would love this guy. In fact, it'd be great for you. You're gonna have him on your show, Rick Dempsey.
I'll write it down.
Yeah, Rick is a former executive with Disney. He was in charge of all translation and what they call localization for Disney films. He reported to the president of Disney. He was there 35 years. Wow. And he was retiring, and he came over, and by God's grace, we connected with him. So he's leading our dubbing efforts, translation efforts. We have a team that's working with that. And then we find what they call subject matter experts in each of these language groups that tell us, once it's been translated, does it have the same meaning in Fiji? Is it Fijian? What would be the language of Fijian? Okay. Yeah. Or Hindi or Portuguese or Spanish, whatever that language is. Does it mean the same? Are the Bible, is the Bible meaning of theology the same as it would be as we watch it and experience it in, let's say, in English? So these subject matter experts are pastors and theologians who tell us before it's dubbed, it's been translated, they read it, they make notes, And only then do we then go into the process of the dubbing and, of course, subtitles. And so it's a grueling process, but it's an important one because really the truth and accuracy of the show and of the scriptures really depend on it.
Well, thank you. I've more notes I'm making on my paper. Everybody here was CEO of Come and See Foundation, Stan Jantz. A couple of things I wrote down here. I wrote down responsibility, and everyone, I mentioned that I'm doing a doctoral degree, but one of the things I'm doing, Stan, is actually critiquing all of my public work. And a portion of that is my podcast. I have 300 hours of interviews, and I'm honored to have you on because you're going to be part of that critique. And so it's just so blessings. But there's one thing that I'm learning is that when you have the power of media, you have a big responsibility. And I love how you are saying that there have these people in place, these SMEs, subject matter experts. By the way, I was kind of laughing because in my mind, because when I was in corporate, we would have SMEs too in the business structure. So it's kind of cool taking me back to when I was a CEO, that these people are doing the right work. I want to say thank you. I watch things with my wife Anna on another streaming like a Netflix, etc. And sometimes there's what you lose in translation. But in this case, I'm just putting all the dots together. You just told us that translating into 600 languages reached 95% of the world. And everybody, can you imagine if there's a misinterpretation of language, just how the impact might be? It's pretty amazing. Hey, Stan, I want to go back. I was flashing up a picture on the screen there a few times, just teasing the audience.
Yeah.
This is from filming. You mentioned about Utah and Texas and whatnot. Have you been to any filming, or do you get involved that way, or is it really your arm's length with Come and See Foundation?
No, we are there. In fact, we from our team, we have what's called advancement, which is people who are developing people to be generous with Come and See. And so we usually have during the filming in Utah, which took place pretty much April, May, and then Texas was June, July. As I said, just concluded last week. And we try to have someone there from Come and See. We actually have an office on the set there. And it's a privilege and an eye-opener to watch Dallas in action and how he directs and the team it takes. None of us do anything by ourselves. We need a team around us. And you see it for sure. Movie making is a collaborative process and it's a creative process, but it's got to be, there's a lot of precision that goes into it, still allowing for the creative expression. And to see how he directs the actors and all that, and the way the actors have developed and grown in their own roles as well. Of course, when you have a series like this, you start taking on almost like the characteristics of that character
That's right.
that you're portraying. So it's been very.
I put it back on the screen there, Stan, the QR code. Tell everybody again, what should they do with this?
Just hold up your camera and it'll take you to thechosen.tv, and it's actually the app and you can download it. I already have the app, so it just said open it, but you can download the app for free and you get access to all 4 seasons. And you, Tom, you get there's a menu of languages. You can click on one of, I think it's up over 40 languages now for seasons 1 through 4, maybe over 50 by now.
Wow.
And you click on that, boom, you click on it, and then you go back to the show. It's going to be dubbed in that language. I mean, it's remarkable. I don't think I've seen anything like this in the entertainment industry where it's that automatic to be able to go through. And eventually that list is going to be 600, but it's going to take some time.
Yeah.
And I know you've got a segment you were going to talk about AI and how that may assist us. But let me just say this about God and technology. God has, through history, especially if we look at the time of Jesus to today, God uses technology to get the message out about his son. The first technology he used was the Roman roads. All right. Love this as a CEO and a guy who's, a nerd of facts and, stuff about the world history. Those Roman roads were in place. So when Jesus was crucified, rose again, ascended to heaven, he sent these disciples out. They were then called apostles because apostle means to be sent out. They went out throughout the Roman world. And by the way, Romans had conquered everything, so they owned everything. There were no passports needed. You were always in Roman territory. But these roads was a technology that was just stunning. Then you go up to 1455, you have the Gutenberg press. Well, guess what? The first book they printed was the Bible. Now you have printed books, and you're able to disseminate knowledge and disseminate information through ways that could never be done before. Before then, all the books had to be hand copied. Then you had this press that was printing then thousands and eventually millions of books, starting with the Bible. And now we're in that third phase. It's the information superhighway. So you have the Roman roads in the first century, you have the information superhighway in the 21st century. And God is using it to get his word out, both through the written word, through Bible translation, and how people can access it. YouVersion is a partner. You can get 1,000 translations there in YouVersion and get it instantly. But he's doing it through the visual representation of the story through shows like The Chosen. And The Chosen is the one I think has the farthest reach because of the aspiration of translation. I will give great props to the Jesus film, which has been out since the late 70s. They're in over 1,000 languages, so they're way beyond what we will even aspire to do. But it's 1 2-hour show. We're talking The Chosen will eventually be over 50 hours of television, multiple dozens of characters and voices, and so it's a different kind of show. But the Jesus film really paved the way in some way to get the story out there to the world.
The mind-blowing information that we're hearing about The Chosen, but just what's behind the scenes. And so we put up the QR code. We'll do it again a couple more times. But my mission is to bring stories to my platform to help the world. I'd like to shout out to everybody, go to that QR code, go. And you know what, make a difference. If you want to donate some money, even if it's a small amount, make a difference. You know, it's one thing when you contribute, but when you have a stake in the game, it really changes your heart. I know a lot of people are looking for ways to help the mission that's behind The Chosen. I kind of smiled, wrote down here Roman roads. Thank you for that education, by the way. Teaching moments from Stan Jantz here. My wife was born in Palena, just outside of Rome. Wow. And so I know she'll come back to this. And we always have this fun thing where we sometimes rub elbows and say, well, you guys thought you ruled the world. And and we have a lot of fun with it. But it's great to hear that interesting perspective. The last thing before we shift to something different is about the journey to the role you have now. Was that through just knowing somebody, or because of your background in Christian faith, that they needed help and you had some expertise? I could tell you that in filmmaking, I know people involved, it's very hard to do that type of work, fundraising and whatnot.
Yeah, thank you. And yes, it was I'll just say by God's grace that I'm in this role, but I did have some connections, people that knew me. And so when they contacted me about this, I think they knew of my background in Christian content and publishing and writing, and not movie making, but, really this is about, getting connections. And again, working with ministries. We are so privileged to be working with major world global ministries. In fact, I will be in September in Korea, Seoul, Korea, for a huge organizational meeting called Lausanne. Lausanne started in 1974, so this is the 50th anniversary. This is only the fourth one. It was started by Billy Graham and John Stott back in 1974, and it's for world evangelism. And so they've invited Come and See to be represented there, so I'll be there. We're going to show a trailer, maybe the one that you showed your viewers here, to let people know that one of the things about evangelism, basically just telling the story of Jesus. And this story that's being told, of course, is the story of Jesus and his followers. And then you have another step, which is discipleship. Well, What does it mean then to follow him? It's one thing to know him. And a lot of people, even in his time on earth in the first century, he had a lot of fans, right? Hey, there's a free lunch he's giving us. Right? These healings were something. But when it came down to who's willing to follow me, which in the Bible, there's a definition. Jesus says, if you want to follow me, notice the word if. So it's kind of an option, right? If you want to follow me, you must deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow me. And those first two are kind of hard. Deny yourself? I'm not sure about that one. Take up your cross. That sounds kind of hard. And of course, Jesus was crucified on the cross. And the Romans did that. They would make the people they're about to execute to drag a cross through the crowd, to demonstrate submission, that that this person that's about to be crucified was submitting to Roman law. And so for us, it doesn't mean that we're going to be crucified, although in some parts of the world it is dangerous to be a Christian, but it means submission. It means in fact, I've got a book up in my shelf by Bono, who's one of my, rock and roll heroes, but it's called Surrender. And that's the title of his book. And it's like, and it's hard for us as human beings to submit, to surrender. But that's what God asks of us. But guess what? When we do that, then he takes our life and uses it in ways we could only not even dream about. And that's really kind of what happened to me, is I was willing to just, God, whatever you have for me next. And this came up, and it was the right timing. And I could go into the story in more depth, but I could clearly see God's hand in it. So it was a pretty easy decision for me to say yes. But now the journey has been just tremendously satisfying, but challenging. But to your point, the first person that we brought on board was someone who could be good at what they call advancement or fundraising or donor relations. And that's been part of the key. But we also have marketing, and we have people involved with, different aspects of translation, of course. And so it's been a joy to be a part of it. But we're running, my board chair has said, it's like we're trying to catch up to a 200-mile-an-hour train, barreling down the track. How do we catch up to this thing? Because, man, it's spreading like wildfire. And so we just want to be able to help people how they can become involved. And just, again, Tom, what you're doing is such a great help, because it just gets the word out. And you're living it. You're an example of how you brought it back. And just real quick, a story about Dallas. Yeah, I don't know if you're going to go there, but just how he got involved. I think you'll be interested that he was a filmmaker, a director, but he was at a point where he had was supposed to be a major motion picture, and it flopped big time. This is a major Hollywood studio. And he was at the end of he thought, man, God, maybe I shouldn't even do this. And then his church asked him to do a little, his church up in Chicago called Harvest, asked him to do a little Christmas, 20-minute little Christmas movie that they were going to show. It's called The Shepherd. And Dallas did that. Right. Now part of the Christmas special that they did last year. And it just became kind of the seed of what The Chosen could be. And a couple of people recognized that, and they launched it with this crowdfunding and did those first seasons. And it just portrays Jesus in a different way, I think, that is relatable and real, and authentic. We use the word authentic. And authentic means to be real, but it means to be relatable. And I think that's what all of us aspire to do. But Jesus is the supreme example. He was the genuine person. He was the Son of God, but he related and still relates to all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. I mean, everybody, the Chosen app, that we've put the QR code, we'll do it again. And by the way, we're going to tidy up some of the transitions. We're live, so you'll see some of the things that are happening in a studio. I kind of like to say you're peeking inside the studio, and I see some people are on the live stream. Put a question in the chat. Put a comment in the chat, everybody. What I do is I will add that onto the stream, and it's permanently etched into the show. If it's meaningful, just make a contribution. I was thinking about something we talked about strife and the world, and let me throw this out to you. The United States is going through elections. You look what's happening in Europe. I'm going to a university in London, and they're having protests and problems right now. Then you have the Middle East, and it goes on and on. And here's connecting the dots. I was watching Billy Graham because I follow his shows. They're timeless, and I love them. And I was watching one that was many, many years ago. Obviously, he's not longer with us, Stan. And my wife looked at it, and she goes, listen to his preaching. It's like he was standing in the world today. Mm-hmm. And then we have what happened in the Olympics. I won't politicize this or put you on the spot for your views for or against that. It's not why I'm doing this. Give the world some of your thoughts as a man of faith and how we navigate through such a difficult, scary time in the world. What's your advice?
Well, yes, the world is a scary place. Truthfully, the world's always been this way.
Yes.
We just have access to it because we can see it instantly on our phones. But let me tell you, in the first century, we talked about the Roman roads. It wasn't all, it wasn't easy. The Christians at that time, the Jews didn't like them because they're upsetting the order, the religious order that had been established for thousands of years. And the Romans didn't like it because the first century Christians were considered atheists. Why? Because they only believed in one God. And the Romans had a whole bunch of them, including the emperor, right? And so they were the Romans, I mean, they were so oppressive to culture in general. So living in that time, and guess what? The Christians at that time, they didn't concern themselves with trying to make government better. What they tried to do is to make the world aware of Jesus, who is the only answer to a world that is full of anxiety and strife. And yes, we've been blessed. There are times when we've had wonderful experiences being on this earth. And I think it's been great. And still to this day, though it's hard to read what's going on in many places in the world. You and I are communicating now, two different countries. We're able to talk together and spread this out. That's amazing. We have wonderful tools in front of us. But I would say my advice would be that in an age of anxiety, and we all get it, and as a leader especially, I think there's a really good book that I would recommend called A Non-Anxious Presence, written by Mark Sayers. He's a pastor from Australia.
Yeah.
And it's a great book for leaders because we need to be that non-anxious presence that other people can look for. Not a phony kind of thing like it's Pollyanna, everything's fine, but we deal with it by showing the center of strength and of hope. And that is, especially as a Christian leader, that is found in Jesus and in God's plan for the world. And God wants to populate his kingdom with as many Christ followers as possible. So whether it's you're in a business or you're in a ministry or a combination of both, kind of like I'm doing, we have the opportunity to tell that story and to say there's more to life than what we experience here on earth. There's always going to be trouble. There's always going to be strife. But God comes through a human person, Jesus Christ, to show us what it's like to live with that faith. And he experienced all that anxiety. I tell you what, we're going to get into season 5. Spoiler alert, Tom. There's that moment in the Garden of Gethsemane when Jesus is sweating drops of blood. You think he was anxious? Oh, man, that human Jesus. Yes, he was God, fully God, but he is also fully human. And that's what The Chosen is doing, is showing us that human side, and that he felt that pressure, and he felt that burden, that knowing what he was about to do. And so he's been through it. He's been through the fire, and yet he had that obviously that triumphant, that he did die for a reason and for us, and then he came back to life. And in fact, at the end of season 4, which you can access through the app, is the resurrection of Lazarus, which is a beautiful, beautiful moment.
Absolutely.
But what happens? He cried at that point before. He knew he was going to raise Lazarus. He knew that was going to happen, but he was burdened in that beautiful verse. Jesus wept, captures how he feels for us, because he saw how much the death of Lazarus affected his sisters, Lazarus' sisters, Mary and Martha, and it grieved him. And it grieved him that Lazarus had been taken by death. And so I think we have an opportunity to be a non-anxious presence, not Pollyannish, where everything's fine, don't worry about it, but to lead with the kind of that presence that only God can give us, and being good at your profession. I think, Tom, we need to get real, whatever God has called us to do, whether it's in, business or in the arts or education or ministry, we need to be the best. We need to be quality. And you're getting your PhD. I love that. You are aspiring to bring everything you can to what you're doing. You've got the heart, but you're kind of matching your head and your heart and getting the skills needed to be able to be not just relevant in the world, but to be effective. And I would call every person, get good at what you do, develop, those tools and find mentors or whatever it is that is going to help you get better in your profession. And if you don't have a profession and you're, working at home, whatever, you can still get better. Subscribing to your podcast is one way to do it. Reading good books, accessing material that can help you get better. I think that's what we need to be able to lead in that context, so people will see that there's more to life than just the everyday grind that we're in.
Yeah, I just saw something coming on the feed here. I'm going to put it on the screen here just for you to enjoy. I'll read it out for the audio people on podcasts that can't hear it. It's from Larry Lundstrom. I love Stan's intentionality to bring the authentic Jesus through The Chosen. He's a steady rudder for Come and See and The Chosen. Thank you, Larry, for chiming in there.
Let me get props to Larry. Larry leads our global distribution efforts. So thank you, Larry, for that. And, yeah, there you go. And Larry, we're working with these ministries, and to coordinate that, they're all, they all have agendas. They're working out there. But I'll just give you a quick example. YouVersion I mentioned, which has been downloaded on more than 500 million devices. YouVersion is partnered with Bible Project, which is another ministry that brings the stories of the Bible to life through animation. They're combining to create reading plans. So when you watch an episode of The Chosen, you can then go to what that section was, where's that in the Bible, and then here you can read about it and get information about that chapter. So
I love that.
we love these partners that are doing such extraordinary work to kind of bring the chosen to people in ways that are so helpful. And as I said, you can get the YouVersion app and you can watch the episode and then get into those Bible plans, reading plans, which are really outstanding. So Larry is building those kind of partnerships that we enjoy.
I mean, this is fascinating. Everybody, when you start thinking about this, Stan, you're building a franchise. You're building on the chosen and all these things. Translation and the thing you just mentioned there, pretty fantastic. One of the things I wrote down in my paper here that came to mind was about ministry. I'm just going to put it out there. I haven't told too many people. I don't think I told anybody. My wife knows, but I am being interviewed this week. I'm very nervous about it. Let me just change my view on my screen, through my church for prison ministry. And I mentioned that my father was an alcoholic and, a very violent man, and then he left home when I was 12. And I kind of went out in the world and found my way. Before my dad died, I had coffee with him, Stan. But God I believe through prayer, because I had abandoned my hope with my dad ever being in my life. It was in one of my darkest moments through prayer that I heard this encouragement to go see your dad. And I went to Starbucks, not far from where he lived. This was in 2017. And do you mind if I just share this with you? Because it's meaningful. That we walk in the door and you can smell the coffee and the baristas at work. And I sat down. I hadn't seen my dad for most of my life. And this small man walked in, and my gut was melting in an emotional puddle. He sat down across from me. And for all of those out there who, if you've had somebody hurt you like I have, please listen to this story. That I didn't know what to say. And he just opened up and he said, son, he leaned across the table. He said, son, I love you. Son, I'm sorry. And there was this forgiveness, right? And I was reading the Bible and stuff, and I knew my faith got me to go there because I was petrified, because I thought my dad didn't like all these things. He was very physically in this stuff. And that released this whole weight off my shoulder. And it was my faith that put me there. And then so my dad and I both took this selfie. It's on the wall in my office here. And we said, let's get together. I said, Dad, I can't go fast because I'm still healing, but let's get together. And my dad revealed that he was going into prisons and doing work with people, meditation groups for men like him, all based on faith. And I went, holy crap. So let's have coffee starting in January, Dad. He says, okay. So Dad leaves. We take a selfie, which I've blown up, put in my office. And then in January, 3 months later, I get a call from my mom, and it's like, your dad just died. And he had a heart attack. But I can tell you this, that if it wasn't for reading my Bible and trusting in the Lord to be able to have those conversations privately, see, I was alone in my life, but having somebody say, I'm going to carry you and I want you to go see your dad, that's changed my life. So now I'm talking about prison ministry and all these things. So amen to you for touching on those threads. One other thing I want to bring up, maybe you just touch on what we were riffing on. Mark Clark is in the world of faith. And so I was telling Stan, everyone, that when I was injured still from my brain injury, I was really messed up. Somebody encouraged me to do a TED Talk. And so I was really anxious. So they said, go to this theater, Bell Center for Performing Arts, 1,000 people theater. Go there the week before your actual dry run, they call it, or dress rehearsal. And that'll help you with your anxiety. And so I'm praying, I walk in. And as I walk in, the place is lit up with a band on stage, and it says Village Church. And that became my church. And Pastor Mark Clark, who we miss, and he's in San Diego now, he was talking and he was telling us about these weird things he deals with. And one of them was Tourette's. And Stan, this is a mini miracle in my life. My younger brother, we think it was triggered from the violence in our home, has Tourette's. And I saw him get hurt and how the world doesn't understand and treat people well. But I said to my wife after that, can you imagine me walking to this church, the threads and the connecting of the dots, and the first pastor I actually take interest in has Tourette's. Changed my life and my perspective. Only I believe that through God and the Word can you find those many miracles. So Thanks for letting me throw up on the screen there about that story.
Oh, it's the real deal, and that's stories are what move us. And you just told a
Yeah,
great, wonderful story. It's genuine, it's real, it's your story, and I think that's what does. And guess what? The Bible is a story. It really
that's
is
right.
a story of God's love for us. It's a story of we blew it, we messed up, but He loves us so much that He wants us back in a relationship with Him, and He's done it by sending Jesus to the world. And I think that then Jesus told stories, right? That was His way of communicating. He loved telling stories, and people could relate to it. So now we think with Chosen, it's really telling that story to the broader world, and to do it through
This,
quality,
yeah.
translation, and distribution. Yeah,
I want to go to one more segment before we honor you with a few things. So you're going to stay with us for a little bit more there, Stan?
absolutely, sure.
Uh, One of the things that I really appreciate about The Chosen and watching it and how it's depicted, and one of my pet peeves about the world of faith where people are teaching, we have some great pastors and preachers, I guess, and the Billy Grahams of the world who are teaching, telling stories, but we have others I never understood, but they're yelling and they're doing stupid things, and it's just not. When I saw The Chosen and saw Jesus sitting with His disciples, with people talking, so that's basically who He was. So all these people out there who are doing these crazy things, everybody, that's not how Jesus connected to people. So find the right church, find the right person who can deliver the message, like you hear Stan talking here, with authenticity, and make it your home. Hey, you talked about AI. Are you ready to do something fun here? We have a segment called Imagining with AI. You
All right.
curious? Okay. Oh, we had another little comment here coming. I'll put it on the screen and explain it. Powerful scene in your screenplay.
Mm.
John is a pastor that I know. Also, he's in the film industry. My first book, which did real well, we've created a screenplay. So maybe I'll pick your brain about fundraising for that at some point. But that story I told about my dad is actually weaved into that. And I think the more everybody we can tell our stories and get them to the world, whether it's through writing books like you're seeing Stan or through The Chosen, tell your story. All right, let's get into this is a very quick segment called Imagining with AI. Have you ever imagined the power of AI? There are people out there who say, I don't know what AI is, and others who embrace it. And I believe that we should learn and embrace the power of AI for what it is. And so, Stan, I collaborated with AI, and I said to AI, okay, I gave it some information. And when you collaborate with AI, Stan, as you probably know, you start a conversation. And so I started a chat. I said, okay, I met this guy, Stan Jantz, and I told him about you, your background. So I say, here's the past Stan Jantz, 75 books, publisher, faith-based man, wonderful guy. Okay, here's the present Stan, CEO of Come and See Foundation. And this is his mission, what he's doing. And I got all this from you, obviously, Stan. And I wonder what the future Stan will look like, and wonder what vision I would see the world. What is Stan going to do? What does the world look like in 10 years after he's done with it through his work? So AI came up with 3 photographs. And so we're going to put them on the screen and just reveal it. What I want you to do, Stan, is when I reveal each one, I want you just to, as you do so well, look deeply in it. I'm going to let you think about it for 30 seconds. I'm going to say one word that defines an emotion you're experiencing. Can you do that?
I can. Thank you.
All right.
I'll do my best.
Okay. So here we go. Here we go with past Stan Jantz. Let me just read this out loud for those on the podcast. Young visionary in Christian publishing, a youthful Stan Jantz, passionately working on his early books, especially in Christian publishing. He's in a lively workspace surrounded by books with crosses and Christian symbols on the covers, manuscripts, religious icons, clearly reflecting his dedication to spreading faith-based content. One word, what do you feel?
Amazed.
Okay. All right, here we go to the next one. All right, are you ready? Drum roll, please. And now we have present Stan. Oh my goodness, check that photo out. Present Stan, the CEO of Come and See Foundation, the present day Stan Jantz, leading the Come and See Foundation. Vibrant, dynamic setting. He's in an event here in the photo related to The Chosen. He's surrounded by people engaging with them warmly. The background subtly includes a set piece from The Chosen TV series, such as a backdrop of an ancient biblical scene reflecting the show's focus on the life of Jesus Christ. The rest of the setting shows banners, posters of The Chosen reflecting his mission to bring Christians from around the world to see the TV show and raise funds for the production. One word.
I feel humbled.
Oh, yes. Now, everybody, as you're watching this, one thing we're doing is, if you watch it back again, we're looking at Stan and look at the differences in his body language, in his emotions. It's amazing what a photo can do. Last one. So I said, hey, AI, how about the future Stan Jantz? Here's what maybe the world might look like, but what do you think? All right, drum roll, everybody. Here we go. Future Stan Jantz. Isn't that amazing? Chosen global faith leader and world changer. An envisioned future where Stan Jantz's work has profoundly influenced the global Christian communities. This image depicts a visionary leader whose efforts with The Chosen have united millions in faith and understanding. The backdrop reflects global impact, showing diverse people from around the world connected through faith with landmarks and symbols of unity. One word.
Motivated.
Absolutely. Now we're going to send you as a gift these digital assets, but let me just go back and take another quick run through. There's the past Stan Jantz.
Yeah.
There's the present Stan Jantz. And there is maybe what the future Stan Jantz looks like.
You know what I love about that too? You're bringing the global kind of symbols of different parts of the world, and in the globe, of course, in the middle. That's very motivating for me, Tom. Thank you so much. You have given me a gift, and I'm honored and humbled at the same time. So thank you.
Well,
and
you're absolutely
not worthy, but I'm willing. Okay, that's the key. That's another key for leaders. Just be willing. You know, God has an assignment for you, and He'll take what little talent you may think you have, and He'll grow it into His purpose. So thank you for illustrating that so beautifully, Tom. That's very
welcome.
I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Stan, you're absolutely welcome. And, we're doing extra time here because of a production that's going to be great. For what we're going to be doing is giving everything to Stan and his team that you can use this for marketing, anything you want. I want to honor Stan for one other thing here, which I'm going to have to just put something on screen. So stand by for a minute here, Stan. Stan, while I'm just pulling this up on the screen, it'll just take a minute. Tell us what's happening as we're looking at the next season. What's going on in Come and See Foundation to prepare for that?
Yes, we'll start fundraising for season 6 in September, and season 6 will start filming in the spring of 2025. Yeah. And this is if season 5 is the setup, of course, we know from Scripture. Season 6 is the crucifixion season.
Oh my God.
It'll be basically one day of in the life of Jesus. And so it's going to be extraordinarily difficult. Already, Jonathan Rumi, who plays Jesus, is preparing spiritually, emotionally, mentally for this. It's going to be very difficult. And they all know that, but yet they're ready to go. Yeah. And we have such wonderful people that are involved. Of course, Dallas, the writer, and they're really in anything, Tom, and you're a writer, you know this. Whether it's a Hollywood script or a book or even the Bible, it all starts with somebody writing something. And I think that's where the scripts are so critical. And we have wonderful screenwriters, Ryan Swanson, Tyler Thompson, and then Dallas, and they collaborate together. And it's just an extraordinary process. And they rely so much on the Bible scholars that they have at The Chosen, and you can access those on the app. The Bible Roundtable, where they discuss scenes, and they have wonderful people. Then we at Come and See have a team also of Bible scholars who review scripts. And so Dallas is very, very desirous that that he gets it right in terms of Scripture. Again, it's not Scripture, but it has to be accurate from that standpoint. But then the relatability is what makes the show, I think, then what it is, so relatable to people. And that's where the portrayals of these characters, starting with Jesus, are so critical. So praise the show. I mean, part of what we do, if you go to our website, comeandsee.net, or the app, is we have enlisted the help of over 150,000 people who are part of a prayer crew, we call them, to pray for specific things for the production of The Chosen, for Come and See, and their usual updates. And it's an opt-in; you have to just sign up for it. But we feel that's a probably the most powerful way people can give to the show, and that's to pray for it. So we really value that part of it.
Well, I think that's wonderful. And that, as if you created the segue now is just to acknowledge and honor you. So you talk about the importance of script writing and writing. And everyone, we've heard about this throughout the interview today about Stan and his passion for writing and his faith. Stan did something really cool. He sent me 3 books to as a gift. And the one I'm holding up here, I'm just going to see if I can make it a little bit bigger. This one is called God is in the Small Stuff for Tough Times. Stop worrying and invite God into the details of your life. It's by co-authors Stan and Bruce. And listen, everyone, I don't want to read the whole book out to you, but what I love about it is it gives you situations in life. Here's, for example, one that I wanted to share: disillusionment, despair, and depression. And then with the Proverbs and with a little short essay, it actually starts talking to you about that and giving you a starting point. Just absolutely incredible. I'm a fellow author, and our work needs to be heard. Everybody, when you get Stan's book, you need to go post a review. That way the bookstores and others out there see the buzz on the book and can get the word out.
We actually did in not for this time, was done several years ago, but to tell you that there's always going to be anxious moments in history and in our world. But God cares about those details. And the whole premise of the book is that God cares about the details of our life. He cares about intimate, our relationship with him. Yes, he cares about the big things that happen in the world, but he's going to make his message known through people, through those people who are out there. There's a reason they call followers of Christ Christians. It simply means little Christ. And we may be the only Jesus that people ever see. And so not to frighten us or think we've got to be holier than thou, but just to be walking within his will for us, walking with his spirit, and being able to represent and show Christ to the world. And it can be done in so many different ways. I happen to be in the content business, but I've talked to many people, and Tom, you're an illustrator of this, business people who are getting the word out in creative ways. And I think that is so important whatever you're doing, is to be able to express what God has given you, a gift. And that is a gift of knowing him and being in a relationship with him, and then sharing that with others. So, and I tell you what, we mentioned at the very top of the hour how The Chosen opens up a lot of doors. When I will travel, and often people obviously say, "What do you do?" And I'll just say I'm involved with a show called The Chosen. Something as simple as that. And at least half the time, people have heard of it. And it opens up a conversation that I maybe normally wouldn't have with somebody sitting next to me on an airplane or in an Uber car. And it opens up many, many conversations that otherwise you probably wouldn't have. So it's a good vehicle.
Absolutely. I can just step on you there for a second. I found it, so I'm going to put it up for sake of time. You said something about it opens conversations. I was telling Stan, everyone, that I have my Chosen shirt.
Right.
This is one of the first ones. And on the back here, be prepared, get used to different. I walk into my grocery store. I'm a foodie. I do the cooking a lot. And it's not a time where people will just look and say, they'll look at you, and then they'll look at you, and then they'll say, "Where'd you get that shirt?" And it opens up conversation. But there's many people who know about The Chosen. It blows my mind how many.
Yeah.
All right, Stan, thanks for being patient. This is the review. So there it is. I'm going to read it out loud.
Great. Thank you.
5-star review, a pocket-sized powerhouse of faith and comfort. God is in the Small Stuff for Tough Times by Bruce Bickle and Stan Jantz is a remarkable guide for navigating life's most challenging moments. This book, with its calming green cover, compact size, quickly became a treasured companion during my daily walks and reflections. The author masterfully blended timeless scriptural truths with real-life experiences, providing readers with 41 concise yet profound essays. Each chapter offers a starting point for sorting through life's difficulties, from minor annoyances to major crises, all while revealing God's presence and love in every situation. I believe what sets this book apart is its accessibility and depth. Whether you read it cover to cover, savor each essay daily, you'll find invaluable wisdom and comfort. The book's small size, I love it, makes it easy to carry, ensuring you can turn it to it whenever you need guidance or reassurance. And in particularly, I appreciated, Stan, the practical advice and indelible proverbs, which are both thought-provoking and soothing. The book is not just a read, but a reference that should be part of any faith library. As a Canadian Christian thought leader and someone who has interviewed Stan Jantz, I wholeheartedly recommend God is in the small stuff for tough times. It's an essential read for anyone seeking to deepen their faith and find solace during tough times. Congratulations.
That's a gift, Tom. I'm honored, blessed, and humbled by your kind words. Thank you so much. I'm on to my co-writer, Bruce, as well.
All right. As we move to wrap up here, I have one more award for you, and we do this every show. This is the one I get most excited about, although it's all been fantastic. Let me just add another camera to the stage. Everybody, you can see my studio here, and I'm holding up something called a challenge coin. So I'm going to just move it to the camera there. Now, challenge coins, have you heard of them?
No, I haven't, to be honest.
It comes with a little sleeve, explains it, but they were started in World War I, where soldiers would carry them in their pockets to commit community. And so if you basically didn't have yours, you'd buy drinks or you'd have some fun. But around the world today, they're used by so many organizations, first responders included, AA people. And so I created this coin when I started the show. I didn't know how the show would evolve, but I said the people coming on are the 1% who have taken their stories and turned it into something to serve. The front is the image of the show. It's hand-raised, painted, crafted in the U.S., but the back is what I'm proud of so much. It's the hero's journey narrative from Joseph Campbell's body of work, who you probably know, and it's so intricate. So welcome to the Quiet Warrior community. We're going to have this award sent out to you.
Oh, thank you. That's wonderful. Beautiful. I love Joseph Campbell, that book, and that. And by the way, Jesus took the hero's journey, right?
Did he? Yeah.
And, he came to earth. He was crucified, and the hero's journey is creation, fall, redemption. Now, he didn't fall in the sense that he fell like we did, but he experienced and took the rap, took the punishment, and then he was raised from the dead. And so that's the life he offers us. We come into this world, we see that we're fallen, but then we have a chance for redemption. So that's the Joseph Campbell. That's the arc of any great story. And it's a story of the Bible, for sure.
Well, thank you for explaining that. I'm honored. And everybody, we're going to now just wrap things up. I want to give it back to you, Stan. Tell us any final words, where we can get a hold of you, anything you want. It's been an honor having you today.
Sure. And I'm just honored again to be on here. Thank you so much. And I'm easy, accessible. Stan@comeandsee.net is my email. And people are happy, welcome to, and please get the QR code and download the app, or just go to the App Store and put The Chosen, and you'll have all the resources that go with the show itself, the translation, the Bible Roundtable, the behind the scenes stuff. But most of all, just pray for the effect that this story of Jesus will have on the world. And we can say that because of the effect that we're seeing it have. And whether it's Madagascar, that story we opened with, we're seeing great movement among Catholics worldwide. In fact, you mentioned Rome, that your wife was born near there, and next year they're going to have a year of Jubilee, and they're expecting 40 million pilgrims to go to Rome.
Wow.
And there's going to be a special event around the day of Pentecost next year, 2025, and The Chosen is going to be featured. So we're getting ready for that, and it's going to go global from that standpoint too. And so there's that, but also just what you can do just with your neighbor. Reach out and share. And sometimes all it takes is a little device like this to be able to share in this wonderful story that's changed so many lives and is continuing. And as I said before, God wants to populate his kingdom with as many people as he can. And I think this is one of the tools, I call it a catalyst, because it spurs on interest and takes people to the Bible, to the source of life, Jesus himself. And so we're just honored to play a part in it, but everybody's playing a part in something. So just want to encourage your audience that whatever they're doing, God is going to use it for his glory and your good.
Wonderful final words from Stan Jantz. Not that we haven't heard the last from Stan. As we sign off here, I want to read 5 words. I've written these down on my paper. They're not scripted. Leadership words that I would identify with you, Stan. 1, faithful. 2, visionary, 3, resilient, 4, inspirational, no question. 5, my goodness, a dedicated soldier. What amazing work you're doing. So everybody, find your true passion and purpose like you hear from Stan Jantz, and live that life that you deserve and desire. Stan, thank you so much for all your time today.
Thank you, Tom. God bless you and all you're doing.
God bless you too, Stan.
Thank you for listening to The Quiet Warrior Show. Create is a motive-based leadership development firm. www.kreat.ca